what does Morph Labs aim to do in terms of helping the Philippine economy? I mean, because you were already in Silicon Valley, you didn't have to put up a company here, but you chose to put up a company in the Philippines.
I wanted to put up a company here, and I also wanted it owned by Filipinos. So after having sold 3 companies, so after Glucode, we sold 2 more.
And did you sell it for more than 100 million?
No, and the Glucode was our best success to date, right?
Okay.
And that's something we're going to beat.
But you're so young.
I'm not
My
that young
gosh.
anymore. I'm not that young anymore.
I don't know if I'll ever make $100 million in my life. And other people in this country make that to steal it. I'm kidding. I'm not about to do that.
I'm very optimistic about the Filipino and the Filipino capability, no? I think it's all of us. We just need to synergize and become one in terms of this pursuit. But
why Cebu? Why Cebu?
Morph Labs was built in the Philippines. We started it in Cebu. We have a picture that basically says Inception in Mactan, Shangri-La. That's where we kind of thought about the idea. We invented the technologies and started patenting it from here. And we got the support from a Japanese venture capital and AO Capital in the very beginnings of it, and we tried to build that. But I purposely designed it so that the predominant ownership of Morph Labs come from Filipino entrepreneurs.
Okay.
And these companies, I was telling you, these large multinationals that can drive entrepreneurship. The composition of the investors of Global Gateway, which is our venture fund here, are all Filipinos coming from those families.
Yeah.
So this idea of the drivers of entrepreneurship should be the large families in the Philippines. Has actually started already. We did that with Global Gateway. And what we wanted to prove with what we're creating at Global Gateway and Morph Labs is to showcase that we can beat the world, or we can be as good as. So Morph Labs is one of the 2 only companies that have won Red Herring Top 100 company in Asia.
Really?
Yeah, the only other company is Exist Global. And Morph Labs, when we brought our product to the States from the very first time, there's a show called Interop. It compares all the technology products. We won finalist for that against IBM. So that's built here.
That's built in the Philippines.
Built here, funded here, and hopefully when we take this to its successful outcome, we can say this is Pinoy built and Pinoy engineered, Pinoy owned, more importantly.
Now moving on to the Philippine setting, you're the local chair of PhilDev.
No, Dado Banatao is our chairman. I work for Dado. He's our boss, our mentor, and our inspiration.
No, what's very interesting is that you noticed, Winston, that Filipinos are poor at math, science. I mean,
certainly not at LaSalle. I just want to make sure that we can add very well.
But you know what I mean, okay? Let me just move on. Math, science, our ranking worldwide is not too good, and then Filipinos are brought up to be employees, not entrepreneurs. So you have 3 major problems. So how do we move? How does PhilDev help in making Filipinos become more like you? Because we need more in the world that are like you. You know, when you travel all over the world, and we saw it in Harvard, Indians, I mean, a lot of them, they're the professors, they're the academicians, they're business people. You know what? They're all over the world. How do we make more Filipinos like you?
Well, speaking about PhilDev more specifically right now, take a more serious tone in this. Now, it is a big problem.
Yeah.
We are not in good shape and not trending well in terms of math and sciences and in the entrepreneurship that follows that. PhilDev has a big job in front of it, but we've got we're fortunate to have a visionary like Dado Banatao headed up.
What does PhilDev want to do?
Well, there's a lot of things that PhilDev want to do, but I want to talk about what PhilDev has already done right now. So, for instance, Dado noticed that in the Philippines we have severe lack of PhDs. Right, this is the very end of that educational life cycle, and that the lack of PhDs is actually directly correlated to our ability to uplift our economic situation, right, based on global markets.
Are you serious?
So he focused on that.
It's correlated?
It's correlated. And he's focused on that razorship, got resources from the government.
Okay.
And now we have 7 of our best universities in a program called ERDT.
Okay.
And the mission of ERDT is to increase the technological output of the Philippines, the number of PhDs, the number of scientists, the number of science projects, and the number of research institutes that we can deliver. So that's tangible. It's done already. It's on its second page.
We take science for granted. You know, people go to school, you become a nurse, or you become like this. But nobody, in China or other parts of the world where science is math and science, they really invest their children in that.
Correct. So we need two things working for us. First is we need the infrastructure and the process and the intent, no, to provide end-to-end educational improvement. PhDs all the way down to K to 10 and hopefully at some point K to 12.
So we need K to 12.
Well,
you live abroad, so I'll tell you.
I'm a big believer of K to 12.
Oh, you are?
I'm also equally in good belief that before we think about K to 12, we need to have a good K to 10 program first. Have enough classrooms and enough teachers to do that. Okay. So that's the life cycle. We need to increase our human capital development, the first thing. Second, obviously, is this ecosystem of entrepreneurship, right? Okay. So it's the conglomerates, the entrepreneurs, and programs like Endeavor, Endeavor Capital, to come to the Philippines, help us put together a structure that's globally compatible. The third phase, the third leg of the stool is something you can help us with, right? We need inspirations and aspirations.
Yeah, I'm so uninspirational.
Yeah, so...
I mean, really.
No, just sitting here, I'm getting inspired.
Number one, I'm bad at math. That's number... No, we're really bad at math.
So we need examples.
Bad at math?
We're not bad at math. I think certain schools are bad in math, but let's not talk about that for now. No, I think we need inspirations, right? Okay. Until all this infrastructure and work that PhilDev's working with the government is done and other endeavors that everybody else is working on human capital, what would jumpstart that in parallel are inspirations. We need Filipino successes.
Yes. No, I wanted to tell you, I mean, I hope one day Dado Banatao, which is really the mentor of Winston, would be on the show. But that's a guy now. What province is he from?
It's from Cagayan Valley.
Taga Cagayan Valley, magsasaka ang tatay. He told us he read late, right? He read and even wrote late. And now he's the biggest hotshot Filipino in Silicon Valley. Yeah. And I don't know how much that guy's worth. I mean, I don't even want to guess.
You ask him.
I mean, the guy owns a private jet. I mean, and what... I've often asked everybody, what exactly did Dado discover that we all use right now?
Well, I would
as a Filipino,
I would venture to say when you look at a computer, right, at least 10% and possibly as much as 40% of the componentries inside it is either invented by, designed by, or built by a company that Dado has influenced.
And imagine Filipino yun.
Yes.
We don't think that, I mean, all the computers we now have all over the world, 30 to 40% of what's in it, he invented.
He's a part of it. He's part of the early beginnings of computing.
Yes.
When, you know, graphics cards were early, Dado invented something to make sure graphics cards become rich, and so graphical interfaces become real in our computers.
Yes.
He thought about the processor and the chipset that make the computer connect to all the other ingredients. Yeah. Is a very important part of the ecosystem early on that made the computer where it is today.
Okay. Now, do you believe, Winston, that more Filipinos can be like you guys? I mean, you're a group of Phil-Ams in Silicon Valley that have clearly made it big. How do we do that? How do we have more Filipinos
Well,
like
I think the piece is accessible aspiration, right? It's not very difficult to do this.
It's not.
You have to, all you need to do is to try.
Yeah.
You know, when I left the Philippines to go to the States, right?
Why did you even leave?
Well, I have to follow my girlfriend and
who's now your wife.
That's now my wife. So, but that was what I tell everyone. But really, for myself, I wanted to challenge and be to see how far I can go. And so when I went to the States, I only really focused on being able to work for the best companies in the world. So this was Microsoft, Intel, and IBM.
Yes.
And it took me at least 20 tries yata to get to Intel.
I
had to really invent ways to get into. I remember us competing with people from Stanford and Harvard and Caltech and, you know, all these great schools, right? So I think it's persistence. It's not giving up. The Filipino brain is no different than the American brain.
You think so?
Yeah, I think what can be changed from a Filipino standpoint is our confidence, right, and our drive, and our believing that we can achieve it, and hopefully that's what we're doing at PhilDev. In addition to the official work that we're doing, in PhilDev to make that happen, we wanted to share stories. We want to make sure, and then sharing the stories in the context of kaya natin yan. It's not that hard. It's hard work, but it's not impossible.
Yes, yes.
And now that the world is now, you know, when we were in Harvard, we were talking about how not only is Asia regaining the population market share in the world, we're at 50%. Yes. We're in the process of regaining the economic output of the world back
Yeah.
to 50%, which is currently about 30, no?
Yeah.
And what we don't want to do is have the Philippines miss out on that.
Yes. No.
It's too big of a job not to succeed, right? So we all need to cooperate, collaborate,
Yeah.
and have one goal.
Yeah, and you know, I just wanted to let people know that your brother, I think you belong to an essentially smart family too. It must be genetic.
My brother Mark is much smarter than me. He
No,
actually
and I wanted to tell, can you tell them, because I was so shocked when I found out, his younger brother Mark works with Apple, and he helped form the iPad.
Yeah, so my brother Mark's from San Carlos. Now, he went
Okay,
to San
yeah.
Carlos University in Cebu. And from that educational
Yes.
rose through the ranks, worked at IBM in Japan
Yes.
for a while, and eventually ended up at Apple. So he's part of the design team at Apple that thinks about the circuitry of the iPad
So this
and
one.
the iMac
So may
initially.
Pinoy dito, may Pinoy na
Oh yes, there's a
tatakto.
Filipino ingredient there. Not just
Oh.
on manufacturing, but on the design.
On the design.
Yes, on the design of
Yeah.
it. So that's what he does. And my brother's very shy when he talks about this thing, but I'm very proud of him.
Yeah. Is
And
he the only
like I said,
Fili-
he's
is he the-
he is the genius
No.
in the family. I
Is
just
he-
talk more.
Now, is he the only Filipino in Apple? I mean, in the
Oh,
design
there
team?
are several Filipinos
Filipinos.
at Apple, right? And it's not celebrated well enough, and they're
Yes.
not talking well enough. There are a lot of Filipinos there, no? And I happen to just be a big advocate of my brother because I'm very proud of him.
Yeah.
But
No, well, we're proud of you, honestly.
oh, there's more. And so I want to look for other Filipinos we can all be proud about. And that's one of the things we're looking at, PhilDev. We'd like to know you. We'd like to figure out where you are, what you're doing. And we'd like to collectively talk about our stories to raise the Filipino pride. We don't want to be known to be health workers and domestic workers. We have a lot more than what people think of us.
Yes.
And we actually have a significant amount of economic power. And Filipinos, one of the highest earning ethnicities in the US, and there's 2 million of us, right? If we just combine and use that economic power, we actually, can create substantial impact.
Okay.
And that's one of the things we're going after at PhilDev, and hopefully we work with our Filipinos
Now,
all
why
around
don't you
the
run
world.
for president? You don't want to get into politics. Actually, we need people like you in Philippines.
Has there ever been a Lasallian president?
Oh gosh, is
I'm
that a trick
kidding, I'm
question?
kidding.
All right. Okay, now Winston, thank you
Karen.
so much for coming. Thank you,
very
thank you.
much.
Now, if you have fans right now, you can tweet him at YGL Winston.
Correct.
Yeah, he will answer all your questions. To all the entrepreneur wannabes, students that are watching, YGL Winston is his Twitter account. So that's Headstart today. I'm Karen Davila. That was very inspiring. I didn't know he was that successful. And I hung out with him all the time. Have a nice day. See you again tomorrow.